Anthony Melchiori, we are live in Los Angeles, California. How cool is that?
We're in California?
I think so. Let me figure it out.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey, everybody. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. Of course, that over there is Anthony Melchiori, and I'm Glenn Hausman, and we are coming at you live from the Wayfarer Hotel downtown, operated by our friends over at Pacifica Hotels. We'll be getting to them in just a second, but I'm excited because, Anthony, we are here in LA for the America's Lodging Investment Conference. ALIS, we were here last July. Hopefully, we're going to have a lot of fun at this one and learn a lot.
How'd you sleep last night?
I slept like a baby. I woke up every hour crying.
I asked him this morning, I said, so how'd you sleep last night? He goes, just old man stuff.
Yeah.
He has to go to the bathroom and he's talking to himself going, really? You woke me up for this?
It wasn't. Well, what happened was, I had a couple of glasses of wine with my dinner, and then we came back up here and we went to the rooftop bar.
Look at there.
And we were with some friends, and I had a beer, and then I had another beer, and then I had another beer, and apparently all of that liquid, just did not want to stay with me.
I'm sorry I brought it up. But anyway,
yeah, I'm sorry you brought it up too.
It's great to be in LA. It's great. This is what's great is that the conference, everybody's getting together.
Mm-hmm.
About 5 weeks ago, I think people were getting nervous because it really took, COVID took over again. But people are here. And you're masked up where you're supposed to be masked up, but everybody's living their life and getting on with it. And I'm really excited that everybody is in town and it's busy. I mean, you can't get a restaurant reservation and you can't get a hotel reservation. So that's good. And listen, LA has been really hit, probably even worse than maybe the only other city that's gotten hit harder was San Francisco.
Yeah.
But LA has been really decimated. So it's really great to see it back and to see these hotels. And new hotels are coming online too. So it's
well, listen, I think I've got a great idea how we could learn more about what's going on in California, more about what we can expect.
Why don't we get a guest that can help us with that?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. So let's bring on the show Mr. Matt Marquis, CEO of Pacifica Hotels. Matt, great to see you, man.
Welcome.
I'm excited. I'm excited to have you here. You are one of the people that I've been hoping to see on this show for a long time. So it's great to have you here.
So Matt, what I need you to do is just really difficult because we're all sitting right next to each other. Is look right at that little light there. Look right in the camera, and the audience will then tell. So don't look at us, because if you look at us, then it doesn't work.
And I'll tell you, it's very difficult because Anthony is so freaking good looking that it's impossible to keep your eyes off of him.
Sexy.
Right.
and his mic's not working very well.
All right.
I can actually.
There we go. That's much better. Let me see if I could also turn up your channel.
I think it's being picked up by my mic and your mic. I don't think his mic's working. Is that correct, Suzanne? Shake your head. She says yes.
All right.
So I'll keep talking and you keep working. So we're here in this beautiful hotel, Wayfarer, in downtown LA. And I'm telling you, it's the first time I've been back in maybe a year. And you really see the difference between LA a year ago and LA today. And things just really seem to be back online. And the good news is there's a football team you may have heard of called the Rams that won last night. And I was in an environment where people went crazy. So it's really good for the town to have, if you can call LA a town, to have their football team go into maybe the Super Bowl. So where were you last night when you were watching the Rams win?
Well, hold on, because I think I'm still having mic problems for some reason. No, it's not coming through. My channels 3 and 4 just seem to not be working for some reason.
So last night, it was a nail biter of a game. It was the Rams versus the Buccaneers, right? Right? They were playing the Buccaneers? Am I right?
No. Yes, no. I don't know.
Who were the Rams playing?
Yeah, hold on.
The Buccaneers,
yes,
right?
the Bucs. All right, hold on 1 second, every guys. I think I want to hold a moment of silence. Just let's All right, there we go. Thank you, producer Suzanne. Now we can hear you. Now we can hear Anthony. Now we can hear me.
Matt, just so you know, we've only done this for 2 years and 600 shows.
Yeah, I think I got to get a new one.
No, you jinxed yourself because the other day we were saying we don't have technical issues anymore.
This is the first one in 6 years.
No. Well, I mean, my whole life is a technical issue, technically speaking.
So tell me about the football game last night. Where were you and what was it like?
So I was still, I live in Laguna Beach, and I was still watching, and I was watching intently because my brothers and I, before the pandemic, thought it would be a great idea when this new stadium was being built to buy some season tickets, and we went big. We went with one of the bungalow suites in the end zone. So if I pulled out my phone and showed you the pictures of the last game that they played at SoFi Stadium, we were there kind of on the field. It's kind of a courtside kind of vibe. So it was really fun. We were able to take some of our great hospitality friends. A couple guys from Blackstone were there.
Right. Well, those are good guys to hang out with. Listen,
they were.
If you want to hang out with people that can't do anything with you, please invite me next year.
Hey, that would next year. Let's go grab a game, guys. Seriously.
So you were at the game last night?
No. The game was away. I was at the game last week, and I will be at the game next week on Sunday.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun.
So I'll be with you at the game next week.
Some of those tickets are already spoken.
Why am I the only person not laughing in the show?
What was funny is as I was watching the game, and I was going crazy because they scored that last touchdown. They had 45 seconds to score again to the Rams to kind of get the lead, and they everyone thought they were going into overtime, and that's crazy in the playoffs, as we saw in the very final game of the day yesterday. But we able to prevail, and as soon as that field goal went in, my brothers and I were all kind of talking on the phone. And all of a sudden, all of us started getting pinged, hey, so buddy, what's going on with the game next week and everything? So you find out all your good buddies when the Rams win and you have season tickets.
Or it's like being a GM in LA or New York, right?
Oh, yeah. Luckily, I'm a little versed in this kind of thing.
So I want to know, because I really wasn't paying attention to the game. I was in the middle of something. But when they set up the field goal, there was a long pass or maybe a 20, 30-yard pass. What happened? Who was defending him, and why did they catch that ball? And why, that's what won the game, that pass. What happened there?
Well, it was funny because usually a football team, the defense will do a prevent defense where they're really just falling back and making sure they don't go too deep or anything like that. And it seemed like they just screwed up the play. I don't know. I'm not a big football guy. If it was basketball, I'd be able to break it down much better. But it just seemed like they blew coverage on that, and they had two pretty deep passes within 3 plays that got them into field goal position, and then they kicked it through. So
it was shocking. And they were down 20, and Brady's Brady, so he's going to come.
No, the whole time in the fourth quarter, we're sitting there going, Brady is going to go do what Brady does, and he's going to win this game. And
he did. He did his job, but he can't play defense too.
Yeah, that's true. They only let him play one way. Yeah.
Right.
So welcome to our new show called Breakdown of the NFL Playoffs.
Yeah, that's right.
We're on ESPN, right?
ESPN 12.
Yeah, ESPN 12.
All right. So, Matt, it's great to see you. Beautiful hotel we have here. We're at the Wayfarer downtown. But before we get into your company and stuff like that, and Daniel, we'll get to your question in just a couple of minutes. We're here at ALIS, so I'd be curious to see what your goals are and what your expectations are for the overall event.
For the conference, this is one that we just love to get here and have a great time, see our, favorite friends, make new contacts. We always host a great party. Allegedly, it's great. We like to get out there and meet people that are doing interesting things in hospitality and really learn. There's so many things happening in hospitality coming out of COVID that it's really a big education.
So break down your company for us. Tell people what you guys do.
Okay. So we're Pacifica Hotels. We actually celebrated during COVID in 2020, our 50th anniversary. We've been around for a long time. My dad started the company back in 1970. We started as like a general investment company. We did all kinds of weird things like actually going back to professional sports, I deviate again. We were the original franchisee of the New Orleans Jazz.
Wow.
Which, that was growing up. That was awesome for me. I although it wasn't the Lakers and I grew up in Southern California, so I wore Jazz stuff to school and got ridiculed because they really were terrible back then with Adrian Dantley and Daryl Griffith. But, then we also did, my dad did, and his partners did Evel Knievel Snake River Jump, and, with the rocket car. And so Evel Knievel came to the house and had dinner at the house. It was really bizarre. I don't know if we had a casserole back in the 70s or not. That's usually what we ate.
So this is the part in the show where Glenn, break down who Evel Knievel is for the people that don't know, and then I have a question.
Yes.
Evel Knievel was one of the coolest peeps of the 1970s, single-handedly making stunts the biggest thing. Like, for example, what was it in early 1970s? I believe is when he jumped over the fountains at Caesar Palace, right? Which was pretty cool. And I think most boys had Evel Knievel, that little motorcycle where Evel would sit on it and you could pull it back and it goes racing and you can make it do jumps and stuff.
Like he's like, when you think of if somebody's driving fast in a car, what do you say to your friend? What do you think you're Mario Andretti? No, Mario Andretti. If you're doing really ridiculous things like on a skateboard or a motorcycle,
bicycle jump,
bicycles, what do you Evel Knievel? So Evel Knievel is part of the vernacular. Like,
didn't he also have a motorcycle with a rocket engine and tried to jump over a canyon?
Yeah,
right.
That was what we promoted. It was the Evel Knievel's. He didn't make it, but it was the most watched. I think it may still be the most watched event ever on.
Listen, I watched it. I was a
Wow.
little kid. So your family sponsored it?
Our company, Invest West, was one of the co-sponsors, and he came out to Santa Barbara and had dinner at the house. Me and my brother, we actually had the Evel Knievel album. Okay. He had an album, and we did a lip sync for.
He had an album. What did he do? But like do a duet with like William Shatner?
No, there was like a whole Evel Knievel song. It was like this folk song. It was like, there's nothing he can do. He can't do all this stuff. Song. Oh yeah. It was a great song.
Okay, so you're having dinner with Evel Knievel. Before I'm going to ask you, what is he like?
Really dating myself.
But I'm gonna,
don't worry, our hair color.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm almost 57, so I was maybe 7 years old, or however old I was, and I would think that Evel Knievel is having a couple of drinks. He doesn't listen; he just talks, and he tells story after story after story.
So this was probably over 45 years ago. So my recollection's a bit vague. Yeah. But I do remember him being kind of quiet. He was actually a quiet man. Now this was
maybe
later.
That's from the pain of all those broken bones.
Well, exactly, and the urban legend, which I've heard is fairly true, is his cane that he kept with him all the times, which was one of his accoutrements.
Right.
Actually, the toy he had a cane, and that cane was filled with Jack Daniels. I heard. And that's how he helped medicate some of the. Aches
apparently,
and pains.
He's broken every bone in his body.
Yes,
multiple times.
Absolutely, multiple times.
Yeah, that's Evel Knievel.
Hey, there he is. I believe his son is named Robbie, and tried to.
There he is. There it
recapture
is,
the
right
magic,
there.
Right.
Yeah, Robbie Knievel did some really great jumps too, but just didn't have the same sway. And also, I think when Evel Knievel was doing it, Evel Knievel had the world, as you said, that had the world captured because we had like 4 TV channels.
Yeah, 3 back then.
And then Robbie was kind of getting up when we had more access to more TV channels. And I think that's why he never became Evel Knievel. But you're 100% right. The entire world, it was the 2 things that as a young boy I remember is when Muhammad Ali fought and when Evel Knievel jumped. Those are the 2 things that the world stopped for.
And again, back then we didn't have ESPN and MTV and all these specialized channels. We had Wild World of Sports,
and I feel like that was on ABC's Wild World of Sports.
It was.
It absolutely was. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? The beginning.
The agony of defeat, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat,
and then that enormous ski crash that goes into like.
Well, you're talking about the
it's like a
ski
big
jump
yard
where
sale.
the guys go flying through the air. That guy did not make it through the air. He just fell halfway down and went spilling over
what
the
happened
sides or
was
something.
He was coming down. I remember that because that really got me into wanting to ski. Believe it or not. But they used to show Switzerland a lot on ABC skiing, and that's why I always had top of my bucket list to ski Switzerland, which I did a couple of years ago, and was really one of the thrills of my life. But when they said the agony, and it's the agony of defeat, and he's on the ski jump, about to jump, but he slips.
Yeah, it's like a yard sale. It's like
he doesn't even
everything
make the
goes
jump.
everywhere. That's right. It's awesome.
You know what's great is like we have all these references, right? If I say, address the ball, Jackie Gleason. If I say the chocolate, if I say chocolate factory, you know what I'm talking about.
Willy Wonka.
No. But if I say, the chocolate,
Augustus Gloop.
No, the chocolate, what is that called? Conveyor belt.
Oh, I Love Lucy.
Right. Yeah. So we have all these references as old guys, but you know what's so funny? Our kids won't have any of these references because everybody watches everything like separately and everybody does their own thing. But we all have these moments you know, it's whether it be Bugs Bunny or whatever it is. And we've lost that because there's so many things.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times do people tell you about a hit show and you're like, what channel
I never
is
heard of
on?
that. Yeah.
And they're like,
Where's it streaming from? It's not even a channel anymore. Yeah.
Right. And they're like, that's a channel? Yeah, it's a hit show. Or it's like, yeah, no one's heard of it.
That's
anyway,
right.
Are we here to talk about Bugs Bunny?
No, I thought we were here to talk about Daffy Duck.
Okay.
Duck season, rabbit season, you know, who knows what. But Matt, let's bring you up to date. Pacifica Hotels. How did the hotel company start? When did your family start investing in this real estate class?
So like I said, back in the 70s when I was growing up, my dad and his partner Sam Battistone, another kind of notorious business guy out here, they were doing investment company, and Sam owned. He was the president of Sambo's, which was kind of like a Denny's, and they had over 2,000 stores, and so they were looking to kind of diversify some of the wealth of the family and other people that were in Sambo's, and so that was our investor base to some degree at the beginning. And they just did all kinds of different investments. They did Dial a Horoscope. They did Soul Cat Catamarans. They did the WFL, the California Suns and the Hawaiian Rainbows. They did the Jazz. They did the Evel Knievel thing. And they started to do real estate. And real estate, my dad jokingly kind of says, is where kind of they made the money. The other things were all these, you know, great tax schemes back in the 70s, back when the tax law was different. And so they got into real estate, and they kind of started off with, like, you know, apartments and office, kind of like a lot of people do locally in Santa Barbara and in the LA area. And then I think at some point, like in the mid 70s, they looked at a hotel and they said, you know, if we buy a hotel, it's kind of like an apartment building that we just lease every day. And that was the mentality going in, and that's how they started the hotel side of our business.
How quickly did they learn that was not the case?
Well, back then it probably was that, you know, their revenue management consisted of a little light switch that, you know, just turned the on and off. And,
their revenue management consisted of your father going to parking lots and saying, why is their parking lot filling ours?
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. He used to say that. It was AAA and that little sign that you turn off and turn on and off. You know, so they started doing that. We did a lot of different investments. I joined the firm. God, it's been 25 years now.
Wow.
And probably about 15 years ago, my brother, we have a family board. We're very kind of in our company. We've tried to really be smart about how we've done the family business side of our business, because it is privately held. It's closely held.
And it's important because you guys want to not, you know, hate each other at the end of the day either.
Absolutely. You still want to have a family relationship, but you also, you know, want to do good business, and you want to do right by your investors, and you have that fiduciary. So, you know, we started looking at more and more hotels, and I got into the business and realized that really our kind of strategic, I guess, edge on everyone in the general real estate, we had kind of gotten away from some of the operating companies and the crazy stuff they were doing back in the 70s and early 80s. And I said, look, the thing we really have a niche in is hospitality and hotels. And we were starting to kind of do some like more independent stuff. So we kind of decided to take the company away from office and retail and all the other things, kind of the general stuff we were doing, and focus solely on hotels. And that's been a really good strategy for us up until COVID.
Right.
But it was really good. And it's been a great ride for us. I've enjoyed working with family. I work now with two of my brothers. My dad is still the chairman, but not nearly as involved as he was.
So during COVID, I would imagine you had to really do a lot of refinancing. Were there a lot of refinancing going on? How did you find the markets? I mean, how did that all work out?
You know, it's funny. We were very fortunate and blessed to have assets. We sold a couple assets, and really it kind of became the beginning. COVID allowed us to refocus, like I think a lot of companies and just people did during the COVID time, kind of looking at your priorities and how you're doing things and saying, what should we do better? And we decided we had a lot of small hotels that were like under 60 rooms. And so we started looking at some of them and saying, you know, we're really kind of, we had at the time, I think we were closing in on 40 hotels. And we're like, you know, the small hotels take sometimes just as much agony and effort as the big hotels. And the big hotels have more staff on site and those kind of things, and they don't require as much support from corporate. And so we started shifting that look at things. And so we've sold some of our smaller hotels. We're looking for bigger assets now, probably in the 80 to 200 room is kind of our sweet spot.
And that's really the sweet spot. When people ask me all the time, consulting, and people say, I'm going to buy a 30, 40 room hotel. And I'm like, okay, well, there's one actually hotel that I'm working on right now with a client in Florida that's 30 rooms, but it makes sense for him because it's on his property. It's a marina.
right.
It makes sense. But typically 75, this is what I say, 75 to 150 rooms, you need the same staff outside of housekeeping, right? 75 to 150 to 250 is a different, FTE, full-time employee. And then 250 and above is a little bit more. But the sweet spot, like you said, is exactly that the category. 75 to 200 rooms is the sweet spot. And 175 rooms with no food and beverage in New York City, there was a family kind of like your family. It's called the Dome family. And they came in and they bought a lot of hotels. And their sweet spot was 175 rooms, no food and beverage, no meeting space, no room service. And they own New York City at this point, independent hotels. That's the sweet spot.
Right. So how many rooms does the Wayfarer have?
The Wayfarer has 156 rooms, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's where we are today. We're at the Wayfarer Hotel in downtown LA. And I understand you guys opened this up shortly before COVID
3 weeks.
started. 3 weeks before. Oh,
Really?
my God.
3 weeks before COVID, we opened, I think, just right around Valentine's
And this was
Day.
a little bit of a departure for you because you more like on the beachy chill kind of vibe, but now this is your first downtown type of property.
Yeah,
right?
this was one of our first urban kind of assets. And, it's funny. We got this asset, I would say it's like 5, maybe 6 years ago, right at ALIS. And so we kind of were walking around ALIS and people had heard we had, just closed on this deal. And literally people were giving us offers in the hallway going, hey, you want to flip out of that and do a quick flip.
And how often did you in the last 2 years say, damn, should have done that?
Never.
Yeah.
No, I honestly, I love this asset. I think, we have great partners in it and patient. Everyone has I think it's really important to be careful how you choose your partners and make sure everyone is got the same kind of vision of what you're trying to do. We've had great partners and you have to have a lot of understanding, a lot of communication during this time.
Yeah.
And you said it, you're about to say it, but I think you stopped yourself, is you can't be in it to flip it immediately or to make money immediately, especially assets like this in markets like this. These assets, sometimes you go through 2-3 years and you're just making ends meet. And then all of a sudden the asset's worth 3 times what you thought it would be worth. And then if you don't hit it at the right time, a year later, it's like, I'll give you an example, the Algonquin, right? They bought it for $43 million. I came in, they couldn't sell it. We did a lot of turnaround, but we also hit the market at the right time. They doubled their price.
Mm-hmm.
Now look at the Mandarin Oriental. The Mandarin Oriental was probably a couple of years ago in New York City was probably worth, I think it was worth $400 million. They just sold it for $98 million. $98 million for that hotel in New York City where it's located is free.
Yeah.
It's like for guys like you that have these big investment companies, that you just got a free hotel.
That's right.
And because they unfortunately had to get out at this time, which is the worst time in the world to sell a hotel in New York City.
Right. So how is downtown LA doing and how are you fitting into the scene over here? Well,
as you guys said at the outset, downtown LA has been one of the biggest hit markets, I think, other than maybe San Francisco. I've been traveling up here throughout the whole pandemic. There were times when I came up that I literally felt like it was The Walking Dead, and I did not feel safe even, walking just outside the hotel. It got a little dicey. Right now, I think it's really coming along. It has a much better vibe. It's starting to feel normal again. We still don't have the business traveler. We still don't have the international, which is really, we have minimal international. And it's just, it's tough. There's, it's squeezing water from a rock. You can't do certain things. You have to just kind of wait for the market to recover. And we're still being patient, trying to do what we can to get heads in beds and get people here at the Wayfarer to enjoy the food and beverage and the club and all these great offerings we have here. And so far it's been, as we're ahead of all of our projections coming out of COVID. And so we're happy about that.
Well, just, being here for a little while, we were upstairs last night on the rooftop, and I can tell somewhere along the ways in your investments, you became food and beverage people. Where did you become like really attuned to food and beverage? Because I've been to a lot of rooftops, and between employees, between your bartender, even those little things that we had, the dessert
multiple
things.
desserts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Those
God,
are
they were
great,
so
aren't
good.
they? So good.
It's. I can tell you guys have a really good food and beverage program, which is atypical of a hotel company that's an investment company. Their food and beverage usually sucks. So Tell me about that.
All right, hold on. I didn't have a chance to eat here last night, but I did get to enjoy the beignets, and those were fantastic.
I had 75, I think.
Those were the best beignets I've had outside Cafe Du Monde in New Orleans.
Yeah,
I think no. I disagree because I had those. These are better.
You think?
In my
whoa,
opinion.
that is high praise.
All right, so I don't really remember how tasty they are. I have to do a taste test with them. But what I loved about
Let's
them,
go and
Matt,
do that like after the ALIS.
Yes.
Right. I'll take you guys back to New York. We'll just stop off in New
love
Orleans.
that. But I love because they're smaller, so they've got the right percentage of the crispiness on the outside and the fluffy softness on the inside.
Yeah.
Oh.
They have to be so light that you feel like you're not eating any calories.
Yes.
I like to say they're no cal,
Right.
but I think I'm fooling myself.
So Glenn, did you pick up that little thing when you're hanging out with a guy like that?
Yeah.
He's got his own plane. So
No, I actually
don't.
don't. I was going to hop on coach with you guys.
No, we don't do coach. I don't do coach.
Oh, you don't do coach? Okay.
But I don't have my own plane either. I'm not Greg Cardone, my friend Greg Cardone. I don't have his plane.
Yeah. He's first class all the way. I am a comfort plus.
Yeah, I'm a comfort
guy.
plus guy. I like that. Yeah.
No, everybody knows me. If I can't fly first class, I don't travel. Not because I'm so fancy. I'm very tall and I need space.
Yeah, and honestly,
that.
Matt, he had to take a last minute flight and couldn't get first class, and I actually had better seat than him. It was the most delightful flight I ever had.
Before COVID, I tried to do that. Now after COVID, I'm a little more man of the people, like and trying to make the dollar stretch these days.
Yeah,
well, I have a lot of points. Like this may be the best deal I've ever gotten on a plane. Usually, my assistant, who's very busy lately, makes my plane. So she didn't make my plane. I made it myself. $323 to come to California in the main cabin.
Wow.
Because I'm platinum or diamond, I'm like, I'll get upgraded. I got upgraded to first class. So it was great. For $383, I got a round trip ticket for first class.
It's rare to get upgrades these days because there's so many people traveling.
Well, we've traveled.
Flights.
You know what it is? We've done a lot of
You
traveling.
did in particular last year.
Last year, I traveled more than I've ever traveled in my
And
life.
other people are traveling less, so that really gives you those great
we were just talking about last year, just in Vegas, because for some reason there was always something going on in Vegas. 15 times I was in Vegas. So, and then we had a client in Long Beach, so I was in California a lot. Then we had a client in Florida. So did a lot of traveling, and so I was very fortunate because I'm in front of the list all the time.
So let me do a smooth segue back to what we were talking about. All this airplane talk is making me hungry, and you guys again focus on the food. And
there was a question hanging out there. How did we become food and beverage people?
Right.
Yeah. There was a moment that you pivoted, and I want to know what happened.
So quite honestly, it's a really cool story because my dad was kind of like the Doan family in New York. He didn't want to have anything to do. We would lease our restaurants for the most part. And I remember in one case, the Redondo Beach Hotel down there in Redondo by the pier, we had it wasn't Indian, maybe Afghani,
right?
Something restaurant, and there was belly dancing. It would go out into the parking lot in the hotel. It was like hilarious. They would have kind of this conga line, and so there's just all these funny stories of all these operators in our hotels that where we had very few restaurants, but what we did, we had third-party operators. When I joined the company, we started to try and take back some of that, and part of it is just because if you look at the rent versus the profit, if you can run a profitable F&B organization, you make a lot more than you make in rent. Now there's a lot more headaches,
a lot more brain damage.
Yeah, a lot more brain damage. But if you get the right team, and that's what I have to say is our team at the corporate level, at the property levels, is so good. And then we had a lot of these select serves that we were giving away the breakfast, and it's 100, 150, sometimes $200,000 costs every year. And if you start putting a cap rate, especially as cap rates started getting more and more aggressive, you were starting to go, wow, that's some real money that we're losing. So we started shifting to what I call the Starbucks model, where we kind of put our own little Starbucks in there. In the evening, it served dual purpose as, wine and beer, if we could only get that kind of a license, or if we could get full alcohol license, we'd have a full bar. And more, even our focus service assets have that. And they're even starting to get, we have a great corporate chef. We have Allison Thurber, who did the Water Grill and some of these other great assets out here. She was our corporate chef for the last, 10, 15 years. And she just retired. And we have a replacement now. And we have great chefs on staff at the properties. And they're always working together and collaborating on, okay, how do we do something in a turbo chef that is really interesting? So up at Sandcastle, all we have is a small little turbo chef. Mm-hmm. And, there's times where we're doing great numbers like, we wanted to just get rid of the cost of that breakfast. Now we're actually making profit in places where we used to, just have a
Right.
cost.
And it all comes down to when you sell the asset and having that cap rate. So tell people about that, why that would make sense from a purchase price.
So in using just very simple numbers, like let's say you had $100,000 cost of a breakfast, and let's say your cap rate's a 5. If I'm doing my math.
Explain
right,
cap rate.
Cap rate is a capitalization rate. It's the relationship or multiple between income and value. And it also has relation to return on investment, or ROI. The cap rate, let's say your cap rate's a 10. We'll just go back to the 80s. But it's really a 5 now in some cases, especially in California coastal. If you're saving $100,000 and you're putting that back on to the bottom line, to your NOI line, where you calculate this cap rate value, you then have just created at a 10 cap, $1 million. At a 5 cap, you just created $2 million of value. And so when you go to sell that asset, you can argue those higher values. And so being able to, as a hotelier, there's only, especially for some of these smaller focused assets, there's only so many levers we can pull to create more value. We try and push rates. So we have great revenue management teams and predictive software and all kinds of things that tell us what we should be setting our rates to maximize rate and occupancy, find that equilibrium. But if you can find something like a free breakfast that you've been giving away and you can save $150,000, well, you can create a couple $1 million of value in today's world.
And the reason I love these moments on the show is because I want to teach a general manager that doesn't really have access to a guy like you, or to understanding cap rates and understanding value, is why, owners make decisions. Because I've been in so many meetings where it's like, why are we doing this? And why are we doing that? And food and beverage is a disaster. And it takes so much. Just rent it out. And I was that guy for a long time. But when you get into the C-suite and you realize that, hey, it's all about cap rate, it's all about selling a hotel. And it's also very difficult for a guy like me that grew up in the business falling in love with the bricks, is that real estate guys don't fall in love with the bricks. They fall in love with the cap rate. And it's taken me a long time to understand that, because like I literally was hugging the columns of the Algonquin, the Plaza Hotel, going, how can you sell these assets? But when you get into, I was an asset manager at Tishman, and you realize it's about LIBOR, baby.
That's right.
So Matt, you're talking about the transition to food and beverage. The reason why so many people don't want to deal with it is because they feel they can't do it right. How did you get it right that you guys now have confidence and don't treat it as a loss leader, but something that's really
lost a lot of money.
They
lost a lot of money in the beginning.
Right. There is a learning curve, and you got to pay for your degree.
Right.
Sometimes graduate degrees. It's really about getting the right people in the right seats and having a good team. You have to have chefs that understand not only the art of cuisine, but they have to understand the finance side of running a kitchen, of running a profitable food and beverage. And we have corporate people that help our chefs understand that. And we have chefs that help our corporate team. There's just, really, what I loved about the pandemic in our industry is it really showed how collaborative we can be as an industry. I was on the phone every day with CEOs and peers who really are competitors in some cases, but sharing best practices. And I think that's the same thing in food and beverage. You have to collaborate, and there's a mystique. There's only, we can do in our assets, these brick and mortar buildings that we have that aren't very pretty until you get the designers in and all that kind of stuff. But there's design, there is cuisine, food and beverage. And then there is, I think the other part that is just starting, I think we're trying to get it married in here to this formula, is music and entertainment. And so how do we maximize all of those experiences to provide the best experience for our guests?
So I have a question talking about designer and operations of the hotel. I was just talking to Glenn. When you have these newer hotels with these older buildings, the one thing that you're seeing more is you're seeing less carpet in rooms. You're seeing more, vinyl floors or wood floors. But you made a decision in this hotel to put carpet in. And I know that there was some kind of reason you did that. What was the reason?
Sometimes it's sound, and this is a pretty noisy building as it is. So I think for this
because
building,
it's an old building.
It's an old building that we built a new building inside. I think that
you gutted this whole thing, right?
Yeah, and you should see the shear walls. I mean, they're huge. That's why we have some bigger ledges over here. But I think really it's a sound issue, and this is also a very I'm trying to say it in a positive spin. It's a efficient hotel. So the rooms are not the biggest rooms. but they're really
think New York City.
Yeah, they're a New York City hotel in LA. That's exactly what the Wayfarer is as far as the room size. But we've tried to make them very high design, very comfortable, and I do think there is a coolness that comes with LVT and some of the natural materials, the hard materials, even wood, that you don't get from carpet. And so we already had the exposed ceilings here. We have brick walls in some cases. We wanted to have a little bit of a softer side.
Right,
because
the carpet. I actually in this room I feel it because it's all exposed.
That's
if you have wood floor, it would really
feel lofty.
Almost like a warehouse.
Well, I'm tilting it up to the ceiling.
That's right. That's right.
And I do like that because it gives you the best of both worlds.
That's right.
Classic historic building while being able to create something that people could utilize today.
That's exactly right.
So if I can kind of, growing up in this family, growing up in this company, being around and exposed to a lot of things, a lot of people growing up as an operation side, you don't really get exposed to. So now that you've kind of gone through COVID, we're all going through COVID, you've kind of, like what I said is we all went to zero. So whether you were flying in private jets and you lived in big mansions or whether you were the housekeeper, everybody started at zero. You could not go outside.
That's right.
You had to wear a mask. You could get sick and you can die. Everybody, there was no classes anymore. Everybody went to zero. So what did that teach you about going from the C-suite to, like, our general managers and our executive team have to clean rooms?
Yeah.
Like, what was the one thing that you took away from that?
Well, I tell you, hats off to all the people on property during COVID that kept the world running, because we had emergency responders, we had medical people, we had all kinds of, there were actual needs that people had to have hospitality during this time. And it was brutal. I mean, it was like, you had people with COVID in rooms. You had to change service,
right.
Service requirements. You had to just learn on the fly. And again, that's where all this collaborativeness and experience share and kind of being able to pick up the phone and call a Bashar or a Dave or, all over the country. I would get on phone calls with 8 or 9 CEOs talking about, okay, what are we doing here? How are you guys doing it? This is what we found successful. And really, one of the things we did to kind of get out there and support our team on the property is my brothers and I got in the car and we just went to properties and we went out there and said, we're here with you. We're not making the bed. We're not necessarily, doing all the things, but I'll tell you, at my corporate level, I had regional RDOs that were doing check-in, housekeeping, serving. I mean, it was basically a lift where you stand as far as, wherever you are, do what you have to do.
So what did you learn as a professional and as a human being throughout this whole process?
I learned that people really do care. I mean, there was a lot of consideration. And there's been some not as considerate times during COVID where people have kind of gone into self-preservation, but there's a lot of people that care and really wanted to do what was right by people staying at the asset. People at corporate, we own our own building. We were able to kind of because we were an essential business, we were able to keep kind of a skeletal staff. And honestly, we had probably a core of at some point 6 to 8 people that were in corporate every day trying to support our properties and our people in the field, making sure that there was someone to answer the phone and talk about, situations. For me, I learned one, that it's family is something I've always known. Family is most important, but I also learned that especially these companies like ours that are family owned and everything, that our family isn't just within our household. It's people that we work with, and we just have the greatest team. And I can't say enough about how well they did. And we persevered during that time.
It's the moment, I'll never forget it, is where, like, everybody's so busy and being busy sometimes, raising your family, making a living, doing what you have to do and keeping up, right? Just making sure you're able to do what you need to do. And then boom, zero.
That's right.
Like, you can't move, you can't do anything. And it was really, for me, watching people that the housekeepers and the front desk people see as, oh, one day I'll have that life and I'll have that lifestyle, seeing, say, hey, they're just like you, man. Like, we're all just humans. We're all just in this together. And I think and that's why we're having the big quit in our country, because we're realizing is, why are we working for just a company, whether it be your company, we got to work for ourselves and work for a company. I've always been good at working within a company, but also understand I'm working for myself. And if people in your position and people that own these big companies don't understand that these are not temporary resignations, these people aren't coming back to the industry.
No,
So the people that are in your building, whether it be a general manager, the housekeeper, how can you give them the flexibility and a position where they really feel the embodiment of what your family has tried to do over the years? So how do you work with this new flexibility kind of lifestyle? What are you guys doing?
It's a great question. And one of the things we did, and we mentioned this during COVID, is we went in and retooled our entire strategic plan, added a new vision, new mission, core values. We went through them and, we tweaked them. A lot of them were still intact, or we kind of had a different take on them.
Right.
But having that structure and then communicating that to your team and saying, and actually including your team as you build that, I had all the way down to like kind of a junior management level. We kind of pushed certain parts of our strategic plan, our core values out to people. And then we are having our, it's been over 2 years, but we're having our first kind of corporate meeting. We take everyone out to Vegas. We have about 125 to 150 people.
Hey,
senior
Glenn,
management.
I know a good moderator and a good keynote speaker for that.
Yeah, I do too.
Do you guys know someone that?
But if you do need anybody, just drop me a line.
But I think going out there and really communicating with people and then getting their feedback and listening, I think that's the biggest part. As you said, Anthony, people are looking at their careers saying, what is this giving for me? It's not a paycheck anymore. You can get a paycheck a lot of places. They want to have something that inspires them. They want to have something that they get energy from.
If it's okay, if I bring this up about what you told me about the studio, right? That you were building. So so for your family, you're building your family's into music and you're building this little studio. So the people, whether it be housekeepers or front desk, they want that flexibility to be able to do things that inspire them. And I think that these hotel companies, your hotel and other hotel companies, we've got to start implementing things that inspire people, not only for their core job, but for what really feeds them. I've always been fed by helping someone that was less fortunate. That's what feeds my soul. And on a real level, and I've done that throughout my career, whether it be literally when I was a supervisor and giving somebody $20 or just being kind to somebody or standing up for somebody. And if companies don't get back to that, and I'll say with the brands, and I know we have a lot of our friends on this, that run these brands on our show, they've got to realize that we all know the secret. Not the secret, but the dirty little thing that's going on. 50% of the executives aren't coming back. Right. So you're running this big organization telling people like you that own these hotels, oh, we're fine. Everything's great. Everything's great. Everything's great. Bullshit. You guys are running a company with 50% less people. If you're not transparent with that, and if you're not trying to help the owners and really help the employees, I have a perfect example. There was a general manager, name nameless, in New York City that was getting no support from the union and getting no support from corporate. Well, if this is the time where you're supposed to help, it was like during Sandy when I called my insurance broker and he goes, you have to understand, Anthony, we got flooded out. We weren't planning for this. And I literally yelled in the middle of King's Plaza in front of my children, your only job is to plan for this.
Right. That's the whole point of your existence, is to be ready for the unknown.
So to me, the corporate executives, the brands, like that's your job. Your job is to now, for us to turn to you and go, what do we do, boss?
Yeah.
And so how is that relationship?
Well, we've always been more independent operators, although I will say, in 2020, we were one of Hilton's developers of the year because we did convert about 5 assets into soft brands. And we did that after probably years of debating it internally, running models, the OTAs with the cost differential between the national brands and the independents, which I still scratch my head. I'm probably going to get thrown to the bottom of Expedia and all these other things.
Yeah, they're not listening.
But yeah, it's a difficult thing to play with. And so we have some of these imbalances in our industry, going back to even the franchises where, they have a lot of power, and some of us smaller operators, we have to kind of figure out our best way to live in this environment. And so we tried some of these soft brands and they worked. We were able to save in the OTAs, and we did a bunch of the soft brands for Hilton, and it's been a great experience.
Plus, it gives them, Matt, some really great assets.
Well, they were extremely happy. And but it is good to work with companies that are trying to make it a mutually beneficial. I'm a big reef tank hobbyist for saltwater fish. And so you have that clownfish anemone symbiotic relationship. I learned that very young as a child, that big phrase. But we need to look for these symbiotic relationships in our hospitality world. And whether it's through entertainment, we're going to have a great party here tonight with a band and a DJ, and we have roller skaters coming in.
Are we invited to that?
Yes, we
yeah,
are.
you are
Okay.
going. Yes.
Starts at 9 p.m.
And it's great. Now we're going to get a lot of other people wanting to come and crash. should have kept it. My brother's probably like,
Just tell them to leave their back
Yeah,
cards
we
at home.
have certain limitations with COVID.
So that's a good point. Like the Algonquin, New York City, Marriott Autograph really helped that product, and a lot of these soft brands helped. And I've been saying soft brands really kind of taken off. Are you working with? This is my. We're not getting sponsored by them, but we should be. Do you work with Curator?
Curator. No, I know of them. Those are all my buddies. That's the curation of all the different services and everything.
You got to work with them.
Alex Cabanas was very much part of that early on with some of the other people.
You got to work with them. They're amazing.
Yeah,
Alex
that's
Cabanas,
something
of
we've
course.
talked about. And again, it's just one of those things that you're prioritizing all the things you got to get done. And again, with half staff sometimes and all those things, but it's
that's why you
got to
work with Curator, right, Jen? If Jen's listening, right, Jen?
Yeah, Jen Barnwell, are you there?
Yeah.
So Matt, Jen, call Matt. We got no money off of it, but I really just, again, as an operator and a person that's developed and worked for owners for a long time, is they've solved a problem, right? They've solved a really, really big problem, and it's it's out of Pebblebrook, and Pebblebrook, one of they're giants of our industry.
Good friends.
Ray and John, they're wonderful people. They saved, they went through all the pain, so they figured let's build Curator that helps
aggregate everyone in the industry.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if you guys want to learn more about that, check our show from January 5th with Jennifer Barnwell, who's the president of Curator Hotels and Resorts. Matt, we're starting to run low on time over here, but where do you see is the best opportunities for you going forward in the next year or so? Is it getting those bigger hotels in that sweet spot?
I think we've been such a California-centric and even West Coast-centric company that one of our initiatives coming out of COVID is really to strive to diversify out of California. California is a wonderful state. It has a coastline that is infamous. I mean, it's phenomenal. And we have a lot of assets along the coastline. But I think, politics aside, it's a difficult place to run assets, a difficult place to have employees. And so I think for us diversifying out of California into major markets, we're working on a deal out in South Beach right now. We're working on some other major markets. I'd love to get a place in Nashville. We're trying to bring the Wayfarer brand.
I was about to say, how does this property reflect where you're headed in the future?
So actually, I would call this our old. We had the prototype in Santa Barbara that we sold during, and it became well, we won't say what it became, but
something not as cool as
brand.
That.
But this is really I would say the quintessential Wayfarer here is probably on the high end of what we would do. And we have one converting in San Diego, which is an internal property that we're doing on Pacific Beach, right on the water.
Nice.
We have another one up in San Luis that's going to be converting later in the year. We have the deal out in South Beach that we're looking at to put a Wayfarer out there. And we have some other assets that we're looking at that are kind of either joint ventures or other opportunities that we have to maybe bring Wayfarer to.
How about New York City?
We would love to do one in New York. New York is, when we went to Hawaii 15 years ago, we realized some of these markets are really interesting and complex, and it's not just open up the doors and, people flood in. So we're very careful on going into new markets. New York is a market Wayfarer would love New York. I started my career out in New York, so I have a lot of roots out there.
That's cool.
But it's also a very tricky market.
Yeah.
And so when we do it, we want to make sure we're going to be successful.
Tricky is a really good word.
Probably understated a little
Understated.
More like a minefield or something.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
So Matt, if for you to consider ALIS a successful event for you this in January 2022, what do you want to get accomplished here?
For me, it's all about connecting with friends, connecting with new people, making new friends, really being inspired and coming out of here and hitting. That's why it was hard to have ALIS last year in July when we have it, because to me, ALIS is kind of the kickoff for the year, and it really gets me inspired and motivated and energized to hit the year running. And so a lot of our strategies throughout the year will kind of, they'll be tweaked a little bit out of ALIS when we kind of see what's going on and get a lot of inputs. It's a great input place, you know, as far as like I used to run models, and this is where you get all your inputs for the year.
So one of the things that frustrates me though is it is great for input, but I find that it winds up being this feedback loop. Like one or two of the CEOs say everything, and then without critical thinking, everybody else just kind of gets on board. How do you look through all of that to find the actual truth of what
that is really good. So I do think as great as the educational classes are, there usually becomes kind of a herd mentality sometimes with those. And so for me, it's all about the one-on-one conversations of having time, whether it's at a cocktail party or over a lunch, or, you know, we bring people over. We have a little shuttle with a comic that plays with our people as they come over. It's really kind of a fun deal. You guys should really have the experience. Go over to LA Live and take our little shuttle.
Too lazy to walk the.
She's actually performing in our club on Wednesday night as a comic. Awesome. So but Dana Moon is great. And so we try and have these really fun experiences. We want to be remembered after ALIS. And I think going back to the original question, for us, there's things that we want out of this, but what we really want is we want people to remember Pacifica and think about us when they have a really cool hotel that they want to do something special with, or they need an operating partner, or they need a JV partner, or they need equity in a deal, or a white knight type of situation. We've done all of those things, and we love to have partnerships with good people. So
basically, you like running complicated businesses.
Yeah, it seems that way. And it's funny because my wife would say I'm trying to get out of that, but yeah, it seems to always suck you back in. And there's something really fun about our industry.
Yeah, but I don't know. I really don't know. There's a lot of. I think hospitals are the most complicated. But outside of hospitals, I think the hotel business is one of the most complicated things you can ever run. But I personally, I find it simple. I find very simple things complicated, and I find complicated things simple. And I think the hotel business, especially, I think growing up the way I grew up through it, I grew up through it from the bottom to the top. So I really understood it. You know, you got an education from the top down, and then you really understand. It's really great to meet someone like you, that we had two different ways to kind of the same place, but it's, we just fall in love with the operation and the people that run it.
That's right.
So, Matt, last question for you. Outside of the financial stuff, looking at the property level, what's your favorite thing about the hotel business when you're looking at individual hotels?
The chocolates on the pillow.
It's so funny. I started out in this business in real estate and then in hospitality on the finance side. So there's such a creativity involved with that, and I really enjoy it. But, you know, the design, and my brother Adam is, he gets all the kudo and credit for all of our great design. He's meticulous on it, maybe almost to a fault. But I think that, you know, having something come together and then seeing everything, it's like an orchestration. You know, you have the design come together. You have, well, first off, you start with the location, right? The first three rules of real estate: location, location, location. So you got to get that location right the first time. Then you get into the box and you start designing and repositioning it. And that's something we do. We like to look for those assets that are not firing on all cylinders.
Right.
Then you add the food and beverage. Then you maybe add an entertainment component, or then you add your team, which, you know, we really pride ourselves in having a team with very high guest sat scores and all those things. And so having all that come together, and then just seeing, we did TED Talks right before COVID at our retreat. And it was amazing to hear people in my own company. I brought in some TED Talkers too. Like you know, some of our professional hospitality guys like Bashar and those guys. Yep. And after a couple of our people, Bashar turns over to me and goes, "I don't want to go, man. These guys are amazing."
He's talking about Bashar. You're talking about Bashar Wali, who used to be with Provenance Hotels, which you guys might know. Ambassador Gordon Sunland owns that company.
Yes, yes.
But but Bashar's on his own.
Bashar's on his own. But he's a very inspirational, motivational speaker, and he did a great job. But it was like just hearing the passion and the experiences coming out of our company from our employees was just inspiring. And so for me, it's all about just everything coming together, the orchestration, and then you play this beautiful music for your investors who make a great return, but then also your guests who really are having some of the most important parts of their life at your properties. They're celebrating anniversaries, weddings, babies, you know, maybe grandma's not doing so well and it's the last trip with grandma or grandpa. And so you think about those things, and it's really sobering to think that people are relying on you to set the stage for that and not have problems, not have distractions.
You're the only executive I've ever heard say that. And I've been saying that. Glenn's heard me say that for a million times. It's like our hotel is your home. Is my mic's working, right?
Yeah.
Our hotel, I don't call it a hotel. I call it a home. It's your home because everything you do at home, you do here. And we have to take care of you.
That's right.
You know, this is the place you go that when you're hopefully healthy to have fun. A hospital is basically the same place. You just go there when you're sick. But everything outside of the medical part, we're doing the same thing a hospital does. We have to take care of your every single need to make you comfortable. And it's great to hear someone in your position to really understand. That's why I hate at the front desk. She's like, "How are you today?" Well, I'm here for a funeral. So, you have to be really in tune to that.
Absolutely. And you got to be curious about people. The other thing is, again, this Wayfarer product that we've been developing kind of got a little bit of a speed bump with COVID because the Wayfarer is all about engagement. It's guests hosting guests,
right? Which is,
again, we're going to have to get back to that. We're going to have to we're retooling it right now to kind of, be safe during this time. But the reality is that, the buildings are all great, but, Guy, I watched your guys' podcast. You guys are beautiful. Hotels, we've all toured every hotel in the world that's gorgeous. There's beautiful places everywhere, but it's really what happens inside with the people. That's the magic.
That's right.
Whether it's you have this great restaurant where people are just really engaging together, or you have a communal kitchen. Our communal kitchen in Santa Barbara, during the mudslides of Montecito, people had to stay there for 2 months. And there was a lady that was there. And I said this in my TED talk with my company. There was a lady there that was staying there already. She stayed for another month to cook for all the families who had lost, loved ones, pets, houses. And it's such an amazing story. And that's the kind of thing that I get goosebumps over. And that's what hospitality really is.
My friend Mark Summers lives there, and he went through it. And man, I was in tears listening to
it. It was crazy.
What they were going through.
Well, I think that's the perfect place to end it. I don't think you can do better than that. Really awesome, inspiring. Matt, stick around because let's just wrap this up. Then we'll say goodbye to you. Hey, everybody, if you're in town, if you're in LA, I'll be speaking at the Hospitality Leadership and Design Conference at Wednesday at 1:30, delivering the keynote address. I'm excited about that. And then you'll be able to see me hosting a session at new NEWH event out in Seattle. And, of course, a great super session that I'll be hosting with my partner on the Adapters book, Sean Worker, at the Radisson Hotels America Conference, and a lot more engagements in the future. Anthony, what you got going on, brother?
I don't think our guest was that good. I don't know. I hope he's not,
still
not here. Is he still here? No, it's really amazing to have somebody, a guest that comes on and really understands not only from the top line, but also what it goes into a housekeeper, cleaning room, or a front desk person, and still have that heart of hospitality as we talk about. So it was great.
Beautiful. If you guys want to hear about the heart of hospitality, of course, you can download our audio version of our podcast, which is viewed or heard by those around the world. In fact, our audio feed is in the top 1/2% of all podcasts in Earth. Find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, wherever you get
in
your
Earth
shows.
Or on Earth?
On Earth. Well, it's weird how that works, right? It's like you live on Long Island, but you live in New Jersey. Right.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
But I'm just saying the difference between ins and ons and all that kind of stuff. All right, everybody, listen to our podcast. And remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
And we'll see you tomorrow with another live show right here from ALIS at the Wayfarer Hotel.
Really? That's really cool.
Yeah, isn't it? I thought so.